Hey, what's up everybody? Thank you very much for joining me for Painting of the Week. Today we're looking at a painting by Matisse, and for me this painting elicits two fundamental questions regarding your relationship with art. And I'd like to ask you guys what you think about these. The first question is kind of more conceptual. The second question is more just dealing with pure aesthetics. So Matisse was criticized in his time for being a decorative painter. This adjective was attached to his work in a very pejorative sense. He was criticized for kind of, making art that looked pretty and having no deeper quality or content to it. And Matisse really owned this criticism, and he said something to the extent of, yeah, I'm a decorative painter, I make things that look pretty, and I make paintings that I want to be relaxing. And he said, relaxing essentially for the blue collar worker and the white collar worker. And I mean, for me, he definitely really lived up to this promise. I find this picture to be extremely relaxing. But the question that I want to ask you is that okay? Is it okay for a good or a great work of art to just kind of be superficial in nature and not to be like, trying to illuminate these deeper truths about ourselves and about existence? Or can art exist for art's sake? And can it be purely decorative and still be a great picture? I think that it can. I think that that's what my relationship with this picture is. I think that this picture is extremely relaxing, and it's not pulling on my heartstrings in any type of existential way, or it's not, it doesn't create like a profound response from me, but yet it's still really enjoyable to look at, and I can really appreciate it as a great art that was revolutionary for a variety of reasons in its time. So that's the first question I want to ask you. Can great art exist just to look pretty, or does it need to have more depth attached to it in order for it to really transcend time in a way that's meaningful? The second question I want to ask is purely aesthetic, which is that we're essentially looking at two stick figures. I mean, this is, for me personally, my personal taste, this is about as deconstructed representation of the human figure as I can kind of deal with before I just want to call it something else, which would probably just be more akin to abstraction. These are stick figures. And I'm comfortable calling this, more of a natural based or a realism of sorts. It's a very simplified and very deconstructed realism. But for me personally, I can call this that, and I can really enjoy it for that reason, despite, again, them really just being glorified stick figures. But that's what I wanted to ask you. What's your personal preference here? I mean, do you want to see a more realistic, rendered representation of the figure in order to call it realism or representational art? Or are you comfortable with these stick figure characters? And can you even push further? Could you deconstruct this figure more and still really enjoy it and still feel really comfortable calling it, representational art or figurative art? So those are the two questions I want to ask you. They're really questions of taste, and they change over time, and there are no rules. Nothing here is set in stone, because as soon as I try and put something in a really tight box, I mean, you could really easily find somebody who breaks that rule and who's a total exception. So these things are vague, they vary, and they change over time. And I'm very much curious what y'all think of this picture and of the questions I'm asking. Again, thank you very much for joining me, and I will see you next time.